As I'm looking for a hard-headed woman. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, so good to see all of y'all. Thank you for tuning in and turning on, as they used to say back in the day. So favor be upon us all, nothing missing, nothing broken. That's the way it is. Just jamming out to a little bit of Cat Stevens, just thoroughly enjoying it. I mean, yeah. Many of us know that feeling. We know it and we know it well. And, you know, well, when we ever leave this plane, we will certainly be taking a few memories, good ones. I mean, 70, 71, 72, that period, particularly early 70s, sucked. I mean, everything was up in the upheaval, protest, wars, food shortages, pollution. Wait a minute. It's exactly what it is today. What the freak? I mean, it means we've moved nowhere. Oh, man. Wow. Hey, Chloe, what's up, darling? Good to see you. Jules, John, how you doing? Joyce, Flight Risk. Hey, do the workout. Enjoy it, darling. Melissa, what's up? Lost in Space. Saw Ballot Brandon in there. Brandon, happy birthday. I know you had one earlier. Stephanie, what's up? Good to see you. William, how you doing, brother? How's it going for you? Rick, good to see you. Thank you. What is that? Renkenny. I can't even pronounce that. RDN. How are you doing? Good to see you. Loretta, Grace, Mary Wins, much love to you, darling. Mark, good to see you. And Robert V is in the house. So, hey, everybody. Peace. Emperor Rec. Linda Espinoza, how are you, darling? Good to see you. Trust in a world gone crazy, gone mad. Just some crazy. Great day snowing there. Huh? Well, wait a minute. We're just barely into the first month of fall. Robert, that doesn't bode well, does it? Wow. Well, put another log on the fire, get some good tea, sit back and leave the driving to me. Going to have fun with this. So, Chris and CJ, what's up? I think John Price said, not sure what does it really matter if I am right or wrong? And my response is, I'm not sure exactly who's right and who's wrong, including myself. But this is what I do know. Something is not right and something is really wrong. So there you go. Clear as Mississippi mud, ain't it? Lost in Space, what's up? DC, good to see you. So, yeah. You know, there's people breaking all over. Yeah. Lots of reasons why. Who knows? But it's happening. And, you look at the effect of what one individual can have on the collective consciousness of humanity. And I still contend there's an average 1,000 people that watch this video every day. Thank you. More watch it later. And thank you. I appreciate that. But 1,000 voices, it could be reasonably said, right here is spoken. 1,000 voices. And I contend that 1,000 voices can make a more of a positive change than one individual that tried to bring such tragedy and horror. And that's why I think, 1123, keep passing it around. I'm doing it, I'm going places and putting it out there. And I even let a congresswoman know about it as well. I said, what's wrong with you folks in Congress? You guys I don't know if you're stoned. I don't know if you're eating mushrooms, but y'all ain't right. I mean, if you represent an intelligence Wow. You've really set the benchmark really low. I mean, don't try to get too high there, right? Hey, Susie Q, Elderberry, what's up? Good to see you. But seriously, I said, you people look for reasons to hate. You look for reasons to divide. I said, intelligent men and women have the cognitive ability to understand that when you have difference of opinions, compromise is always going to be needed. And it doesn't make one side right, one side wrong. It's just the duality of the nature. But so I said, November 11th, we're going to make this a world peace and unity podcaster day. I said, but it means everybody can participate. We just think that if you do a podcast, and listen, if you're monetizing your channel, you owe it. It's your responsibility. Your responsibility to give something back to humanity. And I don't see where just even a mention to your audience and say, hey, let's think peace. Let's think unity. Now, you don't have to believe, you don't have to not believe. But we are ruled by words in this realm. Words count for a lot. In fact, we wouldn't have the reality that we have without words. Someone had to speak it. I mean, it's that thing about it. Well, so God spoke. Okay. He spoke. And then what happened? Yeah, anyway, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. But anyway, so pass it around, we can get the notice. And even if we were to get worldwide notice on the media that this phenomenon was happening across all the platforms, all the creators, all the ones who do podcasts, that they simply put out to their audience and say, man, today is the 11th day of November. And hey, let's just think world peace. Let's think humanity united, not divided. Let's realize that in order to find a solution, compromise has to be made. Better than what we got. Cheers, everyone. The cold is coming. I know, Robert. They're telling us to get ready this weekend, but no snow. So anyway, I think we can do it too, Robert. I really do. It's not that strenuous. It's just a matter of the 1,000 voices here. If 1,000 voices here spoke to, and we know that all of us got 10 associate friends that you can mention this to. They don't even have to have a podcast, but if they listen to podcasts, and many do, many different formats, many different genre and subjects, and just say, mention on a November 11th, world peace. Let's just think peace. And let's just see or speak unity for all mankind, all of humanity. So the math would be 1,000 speak to 10. So now the 1,000 is speaking to 10,000. The 10,000 speak to 10. Now we're speaking 100,000. The 100,000 speak to a 10. Now we're talking about 1,000,000. Rock and roll, baby. That's all I can say. Hey, far better than what we're doing. Hey, Trina, how are you doing? DRS, what's happening? Good to see. I'm just trying to read these things as that goes by. So anyway, let's just see what happens. So Mary wins. That was an interesting article that you sent. I thought that I would share it with the group. Da, 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 da. So this is interesting because we have this ongoing debate here about free will. So, Mary Gwyn's, thank you again, darling, for sending this, because so what this is, it's a story. This is a doctor. You can see Dr. Robert, I guess that's Sapolsky, Stanford University. Scientists decide after decades of study conclude we don't have free will. And he goes in talking about the neurological condition of epilepsy, and that, there was a time if you suffered epilepsy, let's say back in the religious era, they'd string your ass up and burn you alive, dunk you. You were demon possessed or witchcraft, demonic possession. Isn't that fucked up? And they would kill or castrate the sufferers to prevent them from passing tainted blood to new generation. I mean, we could get into a freaking hour discussion on that alone. Think about the mindset of society. And I contend there's still that ideology here today. And he goes on to write that, today we know epilepsy is a disease and how it's caused, and that when it impacts an individual, they don't have any choice in the matter. You can't give me this bullshit of mind over matter. You ever known a person to suffer epilepsy? We had an employee did, and it was something that we all had to be aware of. So anyway, it goes on to say, Robert Sapolsky says, but wait a minute. Yeah, we understand the neurological aspect of it. We still got ways to go. And so this article goes, there's things about us in our cells, the way we're made up. We talk about DNA. Well, DNA is different for all of us. And when we see these schisms, you go, well, that person, they're guilty. They broke the law. They need to be punished. And as what we've seen here today is that this means accepting that a man who shoots into a crowd has no more control over his fate than the victims who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, that's cold. But you got to listen to him out on this. It means treating drunk drivers who barrel into pedestrians just like drivers who suffer from a sudden heart attack or veer out of their lane. The world is a really screwed up and made much, much more unfair by the fact that we reward people and punish people for things they have no control over. Sapolsky said, we've got no free will. Stop attributing stuff to us that isn't there. Sapolsky, a MacArthur Grant genius. Now, you win the MacArthur Award. They actually did an episode on the Big Bang Theory, where the guy who's the archaeologist, he won the MacArthur Award. Well, for him, it comes with a lot of money, a lot of prestige. Anyway, so you got to be really good. Is extremely aware that this is an out there position. Most neuroscientists believe humans have at least some degree of free will. So do most philosophers and vast majority of the general population? So I've done shows on this. Many others have. Free will. Says free will is essential to how we see ourselves, fueling the satisfaction of achievement or the shame of failing to do the right thing. Saying That people have no free will is a great way to start an argument. Isn't that the truth? Get some religious zealots in there. This is partly why Salovsky, who describes himself as a majority adverse to an interpersonal conflict, put off writing this new book, Determined, A Science of Life Without Free Will. Goes on to say, I am really, really, really trying not to sound like a combative jerk in the book. I deal with human complexities by going and living in a tent. So yeah, I'm not up for a lot of brawls about this. And, want the article, let me know. Mary, you found it. Thank you, darling. That is just far out. Because it really does bring into question then this whole thing, free will. Folks, and like I said, it could be just me, but I get more and more the sense that I did not come in here willingly. I don't know why. It seems that I didn't. So if I'm not here voluntarily, or if I was to take the ideology of, most religious beliefs that somehow a God thought of me and somehow through this really unexplained process that I came here. They teach us in biology that you have to have the male and you have to have the female, the two, have the coitus, and, boom, new souls are made, new spirits. And you only got one chance. Most people will have less than 32,000 days to figure it out. Some far less than that to figure it out. Well, sure, that's fair. Yeah, of course that's fair. Why not? In my former religion, it was all about obedience, baby. Obedience. I got to tell you, the whole obedience thing, I really don't dig. When it's forced, it tells me something's wrong. And why would someone need obedience? Well, you could say on one side of the argument, well, see, that proves, Wayne, you have free will. Not necessarily. It could mean that we desire free will. We're aware of what free will is, but we don't have it. It was taken away from us. That's part of our sentence here, that this is a prison. This is a penal planet. You don't have free will. Because the whole imbalance becomes, well, so one person is born into great wealth and lives a life of luxuries, gets the best education, has the most opportunities to enlighten themselves. But another person is born in the poorest part of the world and is most likely going to die an early death because he didn't have, or she didn't have enough of the nutrients, the proper environment, was denied an education, and was basically living in blatant ignorance. How do you justify free will for that? You can take the Hindu belief, well, it's karma, baby. Yeah, I can debate karma. Actually, it's another dog chasing its tail. Well, you got good karma. Well, you got bad karma. Okay. Who's defining what? So it could very well be, if you read in the Bible, the Quran, man, we don't have free will. Seems we have anything but. If there is free will, like I said, it was taken from us. Maybe that's sin. Maybe that's the first sin, that we lost our free will and thus subjugated ourselves to powers that are higher than us. And therefore, you have to force conformity in order to have paradise. You cannot have heaven without strict rules. There is no free will in heaven. Probably more free will in hell if you go by the concept. Just saying for a friend. I mean, it follows, does it not? I'm drawn back to Isaiah 119. Jehovah, Yahweh, says, I prefer obedience over sacrifice. You beat a slave to have the slave begin to never think that free will, that it's only an idea, it was a dream, it was a different life. Because here it's harsh. People stab you in the back. And there you go for the whole karma thing. So, do they do that on their own free will? If you believe that we can be possessed by an outside entity, then there is no free will. Well, that's just a fairy tale you're telling yourself. You've deluded yourself into being self-deceived. And so while you're in your self-deception, you're never going to understand or begin to fathom what actual deception is, because who's more deceived? The one who sees the one deceived, or the one that is deceived who was told they were deceived? And again, who's making the goddamn rules? Well, it's not, you're just self-deceived into, your own strange ideology. Yeah, well, when it works for me, it was never meant for you. I didn't invite you. So, the debate goes on. Hey, Lady Ellie, every choice creates new outcomes. And and that's going to get into something as well as we get into this, because the title today, and we got the shadow people, but there's so much going on that it's interesting. We look at the events that are unfolding around us. And as I just mentioned in the opening statement when I got on, I've been here long enough and nothing's changed. Nothing. Now, there may be different characters, but they're playing the same actor's role. It's no better. Worse, I guess, maybe. I don't know. If there was free will, I guess we had more of an opportunity to express it back then. When I used to go to outdoor concerts, and particularly when I lived in Houston, there was a place out there called Liberty Park. It got rated 170. Oh, man. Wow. I had favor in my life back then. I got my ass out literally minutes before this cavalry of Houston PD coming into the park, and it got ugly. But before that, no one ever had a problem. I mean, there was we had Dealer's Alley, and so you would have bands that show up and do impromptu gigs, and there was anything you could find in Dealer's Alley, it was all there. I was there. But the point was, I wasn't ever worried about getting shot. Didn't even enter my mind. Violence was really, there wasn't that much of it. I mean, I don't know. I find people who are stoned are far less violent than those who drink. It's true. I mean, I'd rather be with a stoner any day of a word with a drinker. I mean, and the worst thing that I've experienced is a woman drunk, particularly on hard liquor. Then you get them to, oh man, no. Anyway, I'm going down a road that, whoop, let's get the bus back up here. So someone, again, is making all this happen. And I keep thinking to myself, so what makes them so special? Yeah, it's all right. So they got the thing in the government and, the whole corruption thing and yada, yada, yada. So they can't really be human beings. I mean, if you're so easily corrupted for money, so-called power and position, think about this. And if you're in a position to where you want to inflict punishment on others that are just the same as you are, is that free will? Is that person being controlled? Or are they so soulless that that's what they do? Their whole thing is about inflicting pain on other humans. And they are human. Where does free will come into that? Interesting. So let me ask you a question. The theme here today is, what are you expecting? And if you do me the honor and either put it in the chat or in the comments section and the replay, I really want to know, what are you expecting? And don't be trite. I mean, be serious about this. I'd really like to know, what are you personally expecting? What are you expecting in the world? What are you expecting of yourself? I asked the question yesterday, and it's a deep, deep question. My wife told me, she says, I've never heard anyone ask that question. What are you expecting after you die? No one answered the question yesterday, not one person in the comments section. Why? Why are you afraid of answering that? Is there an issue that you have this mental spiritual block that you don't want to talk about it? What do you expect the minute you know you're dead? Well, first of all, you have to say, am I going to be aware am I dead? Apparently. So what are you expecting? I mean, what are you expecting in the next day, in the next week, in the next year of your life? Do you just kind of let the river flow and go, well, I don't know, I'll just go as the flow goes? Hey, Nina. She says, I'm expecting to know the answer when I get there. I don't know what that means, but okay. Like I said, we all have different takes. I mean, these are questions in life. The death industry in the United States is a $100 billion industry. Death is a big, big business. Our government is really into death. You look at the companies that are in the death industry, it is what is known as evergreen. In other words, you don't have to worry about the future. Everybody is going to eventually be a customer. It doesn't matter. But in this, we have become, as a society, we think we have become really enlightened in how we deal, particularly with people that are dying. And if you should get to that point, then you'll have to deal with it, because that's when the finality is coming. You may not know the exact day, the exact hour or minute or second, but you are now assured that your ticket has been called and you're about to meet the big whatever. Now, the question is, do you fear it? Do you become depressed about it? Do you go through this thing? What are you expecting? And it's the one thing that after you see that industry in action that they don't ask to the dying. What do you expect? What are you expecting? I mean, it's one of those questions. And then that kind of gets into this whole thing, you know, the exchange yesterday was really great. You ought to go back and read it. Was talking about, what belief, if you believe in something, does that really mean anything? Well, belief it's what we base everything on. We all believe in something, whether it's the truth or not. I'm beginning to think it's really immaterial. For instance, let me ask everyone here. So, do you believe in God? Now, people will get real esoteric. Well, I believe in the thought. I'm just asking yes or no. Do you believe in God? Do you believe that God is a male that apparently has a penis and has this real affinity of not liking women? Do you believe in God? Again, it's kind of what today is. So going in line to that, do you believe in the devil? Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in Lucifer? Do you believe in angels, demons? And then if you do, or if you don't, why? I mean, if you can answer the question, what are you expecting, and define that, whether it be tomorrow, whether it be on the moment of what I think is your true liberation date. I think the day that we all, when we meet that moment, that is our true birth date. I don't know if they hand out awards on the other side, but there is something to be said of any spirit, and if that's a soul, again, there's, I think, reason to believe that maybe we are the caretaker of our soul. I don't know. But anyway, why? I mean, what do you expect there? It's like I told my wife last night, and she said, I think I'm going to come there with you. I said, the beach. I mean, even now I can see it in my mind's eye. Yeah. But anyway, so it's just these questions, why? The question that I still ask, and I ask myself all this time, because, I am a spiritual guy. Spirituality is really important to me. From a young child, as I was told, I was always gravitating to the spiritual side of things. And the reason and my purpose for being here, I don't know, could be debated, that it's nothing more than just a simple experience. Nothing more, nothing less. It was an experience. And I guess, I am hoping that, trusting that this collective experience that defines who I am, that if there is a part of me that I am not aware of, that I have somehow bifurcated myself, put a firewall up to ensure that this experience can be as rich as it had the opportunity. If I had knowledge of my previous existences, then it would indeed bias me, if not outright prejudice me, the opportunity to experience something that just happens, the randomness factor, that 1% that no one can define, because in there, that is complete uncertainty. Nothing's really determined. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Yeah. Let's go. Hey, Grace. Reading some of this. Yeah, I love this. Y'all are pretty good. Blazing River says, when I die, I expect one or two things. Tricky. I expect I will be given unreasonable choices that to turn down would seem mad, or complete darkness, calming, relaxing, blackness, a state of nothingness. You know, Aaron says, when can your guest on my stream? Hey, would love to have that, Aaron, vice versa. Here's the thing, though. Spirits don't sleep. Now, in my theology days, I was told or instructed that we don't go to heaven. When you die, you will, if you're going to heaven, actually go to the grave. You will sleep. Now, that's contradictory to the term of what we know a spirit does. An angel, a demon, they don't sleep. God doesn't sleep. His whole thing, they don't sleep. So if we as mortals go to sleep in the grave, to be awakened at a particular, now this gets into the whole prophetic thing, at the trumpet when Gabriel blows his horn, that will be the signal for all the Christians to arise out of their graves, out of their sleep. That's why it's rest and peace. That's where that comes from. So following that belief, then when you die, there will be absolute darkness. You will be unaware. You will be asleep. I don't know if you dream. They didn't teach us that. It's just that is apparently what happens. There's no going to heaven. It's interesting. There was no going to hell either. That comes later. So there's a thought, I guess. I don't know. Paul Joseph's like a box of chocolate. Paul, I love chocolate. I am a chocoholic. I mean, when Lynn and I got married, we were on a honeymoon in Four Seasons there in Kona. Anyway, they had this because someone called and said, I likes chocolate. So we had this beautiful chocolate multi-tier thing. Light was down low. I went and got a piece of that chocolate that just so happened to be, well, let me just put it this way. It was mighty hot. Some hot pepper was in there, and I didn't like chocolate so much then. I still like it now. What about creation? That's a good question, Nina. It is said that that's why in Christianity you bury your dead. That to cremate yourself is to desecrate your body. Now, what a bunch of bullshit that is. Like, well, all right, so my body's going into the ground. eventually to be worm food. All caskets eventually leak. I know I sold caskets, burial services for a while. So, and it's a creepy feeling to get into a casket. It really is. I'd recommend it. Go into any funeral home. They'll let you do it. So I'd just like to, get the idea of what it feels like. And odd because you ain't going to feel a damn thing, but you have to have the pillow, got to have the comfy surroundings, And when they close that lid, that's a pretty freaky feeling. That's all I got to say. It is freaky. It just is. So anyway, how the hell did we get all the way down in that one? Yeah, but it's true. So the cremation thing. So Nina, supposedly, but I don't know. I've read in many other cultures that it is the proper way to release ourselves. If I'm energy, why wouldn't fire release me? I mean, Paul wrote about, that every person who's going to heaven will pass through a fire. And what is left of your goodness on the other side is what will eventually be a crown for you. It is implying that some people won't have any crowns. Again, strange system. I mean, let me tell you, they were dropping some really good mushrooms back then. They had to have been, to come up with this stuff. But Nina, that's what, and that's what I always think of cremation is that, well, it's passing through a fire, isn't it? I think it's far better than letting the worms in my body decay. It stinks. Decomposition stinks. But then, Nina, there's also the other aspect of it. If you weigh too much, in other words, I think in many crematories, they cut the weight off of about 250 thereabouts, because if you die and are extremely obese, the problem is there's too much fat, and that fat catches on fire, and it's just a real mess. So the fire of hell is actually the cremation. Isn't that? Yeah. But they're borrowing it, that's, you got to go through the fire. So there we go. More sanity, right? And it's just wild. Can anyone help me at the end of the show? A domain name to buy for preventing war through awareness of real news and such. Hey, Gilbert, how are you, brother? I'm glad to see you, folks. Gilbert is recovering from some major surgery. So, wow. Good to see you, brother. So good to see you. New Yoda says, maybe I'll just bury myself at the North Pole so the people of the future can gawk at what humans used to look like. Yeah, it's again, the fat goes where, Cowboy said. That's the problem. The fat begins to boil over in a crematorium oven. We all have fat in our bodies, but they can handle a certain amount of it. But, you get too much and so someone says, well, that's a hell of a conversation. Yeah, I know it is. It's like, geez. So, in my journey, and it's still a journey for me, someone recently said, well, you seem to have a real problem with God. And I said, well, it depends on which God you're talking about. Well, for them, it was only one God. Get it? And they said, you have to understand, God has a greater wisdom than you do. I said, yeah. What's your point? Well, when it seems like God kills someone, he is not murdering them. He's merciful. And I wrote back to the person and I said, if you're saying the highest intelligence can only figure out one solution to his mistake, I said, buddy, you're under a God spell. Murder is murder. Killing is killing. Recently, and for me, it's a problem because this can't be God. When any God commands his followers to harm and kill others of their kind, even if it's supposedly for a holy purpose, what the fuck's wrong with you? A holy war? It's a problem for me. I don't like this God. I don't know who it is, but if there is an enemy to my species, it's the only thing I can do is to point to that thing. All of the whole thing. If this was a universe, a galaxy, the whole thing is messed up because of the foundation was messed up. I mean, I've asked this many times. How can imperfection come from perfection? If it's perfect, then the true definition, if it's perfect, if there was a perfect reality, it would cease to exist. There would be no purpose for it. There would be no challenge, be no reason. And if this God kills, and yet you argued to me in the email and said that he's omnipotent. In other words, he knows everything. Before it happens, knows everything. And yet murder is still its choice, then that's premeditated murder. And then I have to think about, as a Homo sapien, that this so-called creator kills my kind with frequency. And if this is what awaits on the other side, no matter how you define it, heaven or hell, it's going to be hell no matter what. If this demiurge exists in the spiritual realm, the so-called afterlife, then I will choose non-existence. That would be the most merciful thing I could think that could happen to me. That I would dissipate into nothingness. Because I don't like it here. I don't like what this thing has done. And I think a lot on these things. There's no way, ladies and gentlemen, in all of our bullshit, that there could be an afterlife of any pleasancy. We're either all liars and self-deceived and deluding one another into a fantasy that doesn't exist, or we're completely lost already. And none of this means anything. Our lives are meaningless. Or or we truly are gods and goddesses. And we're here in this amusement park just to be able to test our abilities. regardless of how our fate is. We throw ourselves into the well of fate, not knowing how it turns out. What is it we're in store for? We're just in store for the experience, because boredom is something that we as a species, as gods, we can't handle. I'm trying to figure out how we can get in the positive side of this, because if it's as above, so below, then right now, by that very statement, above must be even worse. Think about this. We're on a planet that's gone insane. We have politicians and world leaders that are pushing for the death of billions of innocent souls. Or maybe we're not innocent. Maybe we don't have souls. But we do have the death thing, at least that momentary interaction when the body departs. We have companies that are on agendas to merely looking at the human as a profit. And when the profit is no longer there and it begins to cost more, then it needs to be eliminated. We got a religion telling everybody, well, the problem is that you've got to pray more. You got to be on your knees, and you've got to beg for forgiveness, and you've got to go to this entity that you can't define. But it's the one causing this punishment. It's punishing you because you're not obedient. You're not obeying. Or you got the other side of the equation of a government that's made by man that does the same thing. Authoritarian, tyranny. So what are you expecting? How can you expect something different on the other side when it's not able to manifest here? How can we expect peace on the other side if it's us that are already on the other side? And if it's above as it is below, so below that is above, then there's no peace on the other side. If there was peace, then we surely would be experiencing here. So that means there's a freaking war going on. And we're walking into it completely unaware, completely unprepared, because we don't want to believe that. No, we're going to ascend to the fifth dimension. We're going to go higher. Baby, it ain't no evidence of that. None. What I do see is war, pestilence, people against people, God against the people, everything. So how is this suddenly this magical place going to exist on the other side? There's no peace over there. For if there was, there would be peace here. And now back to the regular show. Come on, folks. I mean, we're just in our amphitheater of, the mind share. Because there has to be. Deborah said, peace is coming. That's the problem. They always promise the peace. But here's the thing that I question on that. I challenge myself. So define peace. We use the word freely. So define peace for me. Yeah, all of you in the chat room, define it for me. I know there's about a minute delay, but I'd like to know, what is peace? The Bible talks about a God of love. I haven't found that. It talks about love in general. I haven't found that either. Well, I find shades of it, and probably the closest thing to this group, caring, sharing, empathy. I get that, but I'm trying to define what peace is. How would I know what peace is? Someone says no wars, Bonnie. Okay, so what do we do then? I mean, where and how deep does peace go? How do we define peace? Is it universal in its construct? Or is it unique to the individual? What one finds to be peace would be another one's war. Is there a universal thing that we walk through and it defines that what this definition of peace is? There's a certain definition of peace that says it's the sensation of no reaction, 0 point energy. The ultimate state of peace is the expenditure of no energy. That's the grave, isn't it? I love this group. I so do appreciate y'all. You know, because we can have fun in this. And it's just discussion, you know. I'm carrying on the monologue, but, you know, y'all are the ones listening to it, and you have your own reaction to it. But it is a good question to ask. I mean, if we're saying there's peace on the other side, peace in the valley, what does that mean? If it's no war, well, then what does that mean? Is everything provided for? Is there no want, no lack? Where's the motivation in that? Chloe says, I think it's unique to each of us. I think you're right, Chloe. I do. Yeah. J3 says, sometimes the only peace of mind is keeping a peace of mind. I like that. Lady Ellie says, peace is the acceptance of any circumstance we want to be okay in this life. I like that. Robert says, a period of calmness, even in war disaster. Calmness, there you go. It's just one of those questions, you know. I find myself asking this a lot. Because it's like the genie in the bottle. If you had 3 wishes, and this is all you're ever going to get, of all eternity, you come to this plateau, this precipice, and there stands this genie, Robin Williams. Hey, dude, what's going on? And but says, now you got 3 wishes. What would you wish for? Some people say, would world peace? But if you can't define peace, are you going to allow it to some other creature or being to define peace? I mean, it gets that real complicated issue. And let's say you had the ability to actually find 3 wishes and you made 2 of those wishes, then you have to really begin to contemplate, does 1 and 2 impact 3, or does 3 negate 2 and 1? I love this group. Just asking for a friend. Says Chris says, on the 3rd wish, ask for more wishes. You can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. But even if you could, now I'm drawn to a Twilight Zone with Burgess Meredith, where, you know, he had that opportunity. If you had repeated wishes, the eventuality is that you're going to destroy yourself. But is that what it is like here? Did we walk in on someone's 3 wishes? I don't know. I'm just asking for a friend. All right, everybody. I hope you've had a lot of fun. I have. I love the Q&A. I love the opportunity of exchange. And like I said, I know it's just primarily a monologue of me, but I do feel the connection and I can read the words, and that tells me that we're all sharing in on that. Chris says, that's what we do. It is what we do. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I think that's one of the reasons with prayer. when I think of the concept of prayer now, I feel like I'm in a casino. I'm just trying to figure out which slot machine is actually going to hit. And then I want to say, well, do I really want to play the slots, or do I want to have a little bit better house odds? So am I going to look, at, the tables? Am I going to look at crap? Crap is a fun, exciting game. Talk about making wishes on that one, or praying, or roulette. Can I take the statistical odds? That's what I feel like when I'm praying, because the thing is, I don't understand why I have to be like Oliver and say, can I have another bowl, please, sir? If you're all knowing, then get over the ego thing, man. Chris, thank you. It has been fun. So everybody, I appreciate it. Thank you, Robert V. Y'all check out Robert and his shows and the Milky Way Soul Tribe, and him and Nina on Sunday. I gotta go back and read this. Okay, Sarah, thank you, darling. There you go. It's on Sunday for Nina. A Halloween giveaway. Excellent. F. Kitty, thank you. Love and blessings to you as well. Lost in Space. Brandy, you're a fine girl. So Susie Q and all the rest of you. So tomorrow I got something I need to do, so I will not be on, but I will see you back here on Monday. So folks, keep it real. Keep it lighthearted. Think about what we're doing here. Join into this one moment. We got so much energy. The group and the concentration on this one. World Peace and Unity Podcast Day. Spread it around. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all the rest. Hey, could be just the spark, right? Yeah. All right. Much love, everyone. Until we meet again.